All right, 5:32. I'll call the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting to order. Roll call, Lori.
Todd Spaeth,
Here.
John,
Here.
Emma will not be here tonight, Todd Kirking,
Here.
and Tanya. Here.
All right. First period for public comment. If anybody wants to make a comment.
Looks like you're good, Todd.
Okay. Approval of committee minutes from November 11th, 2025.
Todd will approve the minutes from 11/11/25.
Okay, anybody want to second that?
It's John, I'll second.
All right, got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Item number 4 is discussion with possible action on property liability work comp insurance options for 2026.
Okay, just like we were doing for the health insurance, we have tasked ourselves with looking at different ways in which we can possibly save on our property liability work comp. Work comp is pretty much, the rates are pretty much consistent, except for the fact that we may have another option to maybe save some money on that. And so we are, our current carrier, we got the rates in, and we are now looking also at the league. So we have our representative Ryan here from the league insurance. So he did me a solid and did some comparisons between the two today at the last minute. So I appreciate that. And so he's going to kind of do a little bit of let you know kind of how we can possibly save some money on property liability and some of the workers' comp. So with that, I'll let you take it away when you have a second.
Great. Well, good evening. Thank you for allowing me to be here, and thank you to Lori and Nate for the opportunity and the consideration. It takes a lot of work on top of everything else that you're managing and providing what we needed to put a proposal in front of you. And I will say, this is a program that is connected to the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, which is the association that you're a member of. We're sort of connected at the hip, two separate entities, a very strong program. If you take a look in your folder, I did provide you with a list of the participants in the state. So not to sound self-serving, but I'm very fortunate to be involved in this program, but we insure a very high percentage of public entity in the state of Wisconsin. I think we're upwards of 550 now. And this program's been in place since 1984. I think the way that this, program has been structured for insurance is just over that time, looking for feedback from administrators and clerks and mayors. It's very to the point. It's a very broad policy, and it's almost a captive program, I guess you could kind of look at it, meaning we don't insure anything else other than public entity in the state of Wisconsin. So my background, I'm former municipal employee, law enforcement, and now I work in insurance. A little less exciting, but been very interesting for me to kind of see over the last 5 or 6 years as I took over the territory of southwestern Wisconsin, how municipal insurance works, not only for your law enforcement, but your public officials' liability. It's a very unique type of insurance. There's a lot of statutory protections that we take advantage of here in Wisconsin, and that's why municipal insurance is very affordable compared to other states. So I do know that to sit in your chair and look at two different programs, it's very challenging to try to be apples to apples. So I started doing sort of these one-page comparisons, and that's what I handed to you that's not included in the folder. But I think to be respectful of time, I would like to start with the proposal that I have in your folder. So, and what this is all of the insurance that you currently have. So liability, property, work comp. We have some cyber coverage, some crime coverage. And there are some, differences in your current program right now that I want to point out. Obviously, we start with coverage and price. And you have to start there. But also, I think what we're looking at is additional resources that not only mitigate risk, but also, save money on the bottom line. So there's a lot in this summary, but I think the best thing we can do is just look at page 6, if you wouldn't mind. So this is kind of in a nutshell, the basic coverages and limits. So your current program right now, you have a 1 million underlying with a 2 million umbrella, I believe. And that's 3 million per occurrence. And there is an aggregate, but the league program a long time ago decided to do a single per occurrence limit with no aggregate. So as it stands right now, you're picking up $2 million in additional liability coverage with us.
Is that per occurrence?
That's per occurrence.
And
Yeah.
then there's no aggregate, which means that if we have a really bad year and things just pile on and pile on, we're not going to get hit with some sort of aggregate cap.
No aggregate cap. You can have as many $5 million per occurrence losses as you'd like in a policy period. But I think it's good to talk about that because the state of Wisconsin liability claims are capped at 50,000 for property damage and bodily injury. That's the most that you can get. Auto liability, the most that you can get from a public entity is 250,000. So if I was sitting in your shoes, I would say, okay, how do we get to 5 million? That's a really bad year. But this is a very healthy limit for a community of your size to have. I work with about 165 different communities, so I think it's kind of all over the board. You're a little bit of a smaller village versus a larger city. And how do you start to creep up towards 5 million? Our two largest losses in the entire program are 4.7 and 4.5 million. And I could probably guess if I gave you the opportunity to tell me what kind of loss you think that was, but you'd probably be surprised. And those were land use claims. So anytime I sit with a community and we start talking about limits, it's okay. Out of 560, what kind of losses have there been? We have not cracked 5. So that's kind of interesting. It wasn't use of force, land use, where a private developer decides to sue based on a decision made by council. Now, why this last year and why I thought I would offer additional liability limits is the statutory protection no longer applies if we have civil rights violation. So if it works into federal court, and those types of claims are becoming more and more common. So that's going to be like a use of force or a discrimination related claim. So, and if you looked at the bottom line, there's significant savings here this evening to take into consideration. And I did match the aggregate of the current, but like I said, this is a different type of liability policy with no aggregate. So your aggregate with your current program is 5, but the per occurrence is 3. So yeah, that's kind of a good overview. As Lori mentioned, the work comp is the work comp. The policy is written by the state, regulated by the WCRB as our governing agency here. Rates are set. Your experience mod is based on your losses is also calculated by WCRB. So if you take a look at the bottom of the work comp page, which is on page 7, so this number here It has nothing to do with us as an agency, has nothing to do with the carrier. 1.43, there's been some losses related to work comp. So that actually produces an additional 20,000 in premium. But when you're looking at the two programs, you're not going to see a deviation in price other than we are slightly lower due to the fact that we actually place our employer's liability on our liability policy. So it's just slightly lower, but pretty much I would say this is going to be apples to apples. Page 8, we can move over to property. And what I ended up doing today was I took everything that you sent to me today, Lori. I updated and truly compared it apples to apples as far as buildings and contents, contractors' equipment, and property in the open. And in the insurance world, that's your TIV or total insured value. There are some things where you're going to be picking up some additional coverage here, in my opinion. First of all, the building is a guaranteed replacement cost. So we take your statement of values, and if you have a loss on a building, let's say 200,000, and it ends up being 300 to rebuild if we have a catastrophic event, we're going to pay 300. It's a very good policy to have relating to property as far as buildings and contents go. And now the contractor's equipment is a little bit of work on my end, because basically what I do is I take your CE list, and we only charge premium for items that are over 25,000. And that's inland marine coverage. So think about like zero turns and skid loaders. And right now, and you'll see once we kind of take a look at the side-by-side comparison, our contractor's equipment policy is replacement cost. So that means new for old. Your current contractor's equipment is actual cash value. That means you're being, depreciation will be applied based on age. Other than that, the crime, we matched that. There was a limit there that we discussed, I think was 505,000, and we didn't know why. So we basically just did a $500,000 crime policy. So this covers
I
quite a
think what
bit.
the reason was is because we had a grant that had 505,000 or five, and we had to actually match that actual amount for coverage for part of the grant that we had to have. So I think that's where that odd number came from.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Well, so I think we should be good there. That's a very good crime limit to have. The crime policy now can act in lieu of the bond, which would be something else we could maybe discuss down the road. That decision was made 2018, I believe. So, that's property. And then I should have started with this, but as I move along, please feel free to stop me if you have any questions, or take questions at the end. And page 9 is going to be the premium summary. So I do like to break this down per line just so you can get an idea of, the cost of each one of these lines of coverage. Our liability is actually rated on employee count. And then we do have a formula that includes somewhat of employee count size on the public officials liability. Your police department is based on full-time, part-time, and number of canine units. And then the auto liability and the auto physical damage, I worked off the list that we had, but if there's a change that needs to get made, I think we're going to be fairly accurate there. But I did not bring the actual quote because that's a lot for me to bring in and put numbers in front of you, but I do want to point out the property. So property, we are a third owner of MPIC, Municipal Property Insurance Company. And that's where we place all those coverages that I mentioned before, which is going to be your buildings, your contractor's equipment, and then the property in the open. Your quote reflects a 6-cent rate per 100 of value. To give you a little context, in the private sector, property is maybe some of you own businesses, you're experiencing it, 20, 30 cents. Somehow the League of Wisconsin through reinsurance agreements are able to accomplish a very low rate. So that's where you'll see in the side-by-side comparison, there is a significant amount of savings there on the property, along with the other lines, but that was sort of one of the bigger ticket items. One of the things that I do when I get a competitor proposal or another product out there is I'm able to save you some money by taking trailers and street sweepers off of the auto physical damage schedule, and we actually cover it under the contractor's equipment. Same way to be covered, essentially just you're taking advantage of a lower rate. So that's where I was able to save you some money as far as if you look at the number of autos and you're seeing that there's a little discrepancy there. So looking at all this, some questions that I think I would ask is, okay, we're upwards of $40,000 less, not even counting the fact that we're going to offer you a 20% flat dividend, a 4% safety grant. That's probably another 15,000. Is okay. What does this look like for next year? And what is this program? I mean, is there peaks and valleys? And the answer is no. There are, if any, increase year to year, single digits. So this is not you always hear the old bait and switch in the insurance world, but our CEO always makes the comparison to basically, he always uses his arm and he said, this is where we're at. We're not up, we're not down. And I think this program is able to accomplish that through, one, we specialize in it. Our legal, our claims people are so dialed in and focused and experienced with what kind of claims are out there. And then the amount of mitigation and resources that we also offer, I think we're able to get out ahead of a lot of different types of claims.
So Ryan, what you're saying is that whenever we add a vehicle or make a change, there's not going to be a change to the premium throughout the year. That's what you're saying, correct?
Correct. Yep. I would say that was something else that probably your peers, that when this program started to become, structured and evolved to what it is we don't want a bunch of surprises. We don't want a bunch of endorsements. We don't want a bunch of extra bills. Basically anything midterm, no change in the premium. We pick up autos automatically. I encourage anybody, administrator or clerk, to tell us anyways, because it does need to be correct at renewal. So I steer away from that automatic coverage, even though that is what it is. I just think you should stay sort of disciplined on that. But any sort of events that you have here, we don't charge for those, whether that be summer events. There's no additional endorsements for that. I think once upon a time that was important as well. Anything newly acquired on the property side, automatically covered. On the auto physical damage and the auto, I would say you get a free year out of premium. So if you're thinking about buying $1 million fire truck, I would purchase it right after renewal. But yeah, you bring up a good point, Lori. I just think the convenience, and there are a lot of interest in this program just for the simplicity portion of it. But that's kind of, if there is time, I do want to talk about just a few resources. Is that okay?
Yeah, why don't we just pause real quick and see if there's any immediate questions after that, last bit of information that Ryan shared with us. And Lori, just as an FYI, Lori and I have been working with Ryan for, well, one would say years. We kind of started this process right at around end of budget last year, and then have been working with you since steadfastly in May, I would say, to kind of get these numbers and sort of just, obviously we had a lot of other things, but we've kind of gone through this with Ryan, and that's the question Lori asked. She knew the answer. She just wanted you to hear that, right?
Yeah, I knew the answer. I just wanted to make sure you guys heard what I had in my head
Right.
from his mouth.
Yeah. So any immediate questions on some of the stuff that Ryan's talked through?
Just deductibles, were they similar to what we had before? Did you see any place where our deductible maybe needed to be changed from one type of insurance to another throughout here? Or are they the same as what we have now?
Yeah, actually, so if you want to take a look at this one-page handout where there's a sort of a side-by-side comparison, you'll see that we, match the deductible on the property, which that is a little bit on the higher end of deductible. But to answer your question in general, my goal was to match limits and deductibles. That's just the easiest way. And then after the fact, there's always a conversation to say, okay, we're saving some money. What's the additional premium to maybe lower deductible? How many of those types of claims do we have?
Yep.
So, yeah, not much of a change on the back of that page as well. You'll see, the crime has a lower deductible.
And everybody, on the back, it's a little hard to see, but the league's on the right. It's kind of like the right half of it, and EMC is the left half.
Yeah, they kind of printed out
Yeah.
goofy, but yeah, thanks, Nate. Now, the one item you will see also is, I know we were kind of working on a time crunch, is that I never received a cyber liability application, and that's okay. I actually have access to this current cyber policy that you have in place. It's a standalone policy with Cowbell. It's very affordable for $1 million, but if there was consideration to move, we could very well, between now and renewal, look at the league price. I would say we're probably going to be a little bit higher, but that's sort of that's just a quick signature to take advantage of this cyber policy, which is $1 million. So that's why you see 25,000.
100. Or you have it in as $1 million. Gotcha.
Oh,
Our current one, I think, is 100.
oh, is it? Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's why.
And
it
then
was
yours is $1
$1,100.
million.
Well, no. So these are, so the highlighted is 25,000. That's automatically thrown in with no underwriting needed. So these are the increments that we also offer that require the application. So at this $100,000 cyber, that's right, this wasn't $1 million. We're not far off, because actually there are some cyber related coverages that are picked up under our crime policy. But I would say, let's look at $250,000 limit, or we can stick with the Cowbell for 100. That's, cyber policy, cyber insurance in general. I'm sure some of you read about it in the news, is your ransomware, your social engineering is the more common public entity loss. That's where basically somebody dupes you into thinking they're somebody else, most commonly related to payroll, where they email Lori and say, I changed my bank, and it's not them. That's the type of loss that we experience. But I don't think to date, maybe a little over 200,000 might be the largest cyber loss that I'm aware of. Wasn't in my territory. It was a social engineering loss. But once again, I think it's just when you start talking about what better metric to utilize than a program that has 560 to understand maybe what the dangers are and what should we be carrying. But in my opinion, cyber insurance is fantastic. I mean, if people want to buy $1 million, that's great to have, but the resources that we offer are, what are we doing internally? Or is there any training related to people that have access to computers? And how can we prevent a loss? I think is a little more impactful. They kind of work together.
Is the airport coverage that you have in here, is that for the underground fuel that you had in your proposal?
No, so I think when we met, that's also another standalone policy related to pollution that's mandated by the state or regulated by the state. That's going to be sort of similar to the cyber. And so when I see those, and there's lots of communities that do have those, there's not a whole lot of deviation, and I would probably place it with the same company. So it'd probably be like an agent of record. This is picking up what you see as the liability.
Did I understand correctly that we're in the higher end of liability coverage?
As far as your limit, I would say you're at a very healthy limit. If you were at like a 3 per occurrence, I would say I would probably encourage a 5, and that's why I did quote that. But in our program, I don't think we have one community right now that's over 10. There's a few of them. Smaller villages, you'll see 3, 4. Your size community, I typically see like 5 and 6 on the liability side. Mhm. Any other coverage questions?
You wanted to touch base on, talked about cyber. Wasn't there another item that you wanted to touch base on? Or was it cyber?
Some of the additional opportunities we have, like for
Some of the action.
some of the extras such as like trainings and things like that, that we have availability to,
Yep.
similar to what we currently have.
Correct. And that's going to be our member services guide. I'll try to get through this as quickly as possible. There's quite a bit here, but I think in general, our CEO and historically, the league is very calculated as far as their partnerships. It needs to make sense, and we really focus on utilization. What are people going to actually, and we listen too, you know, what is needed out there. And so this was nice that they actually packaged this up a couple years ago into one, you know, sort of one document. But the first page, past the table of contents, this is a fantastic resource that's only maybe 2-3 years old. Crisis risk. It may not be top of mind, but some communities, so many communities don't really have a crisis committee where they have discussions about that big event that takes place where the media shows up, or, you know, and I use that sort of extreme example, but a crisis can look different to all different communities. You know, it can just be something new. You feel a little overwhelmed, Lori and Nate, or this is new. And you can call this resource and they'll help you sort of figure out who's going to do what, how are you going to address the media. It's been utilized since it's been implemented in a few high profile events in Wisconsin that you probably saw on the news, and there was some very positive feedback. So this is, and everything in this member services guide, this is all included. There's nothing additional. So I thought that was a great partnership. I was impressed with their presentation. Lots of cyber education. So there's all sorts of logins that not only go to Lori and Nate, but is there other departments that can take advantage and have logins? You probably have some similar training right now. So there's a lot in there. I think we definitely, you know, sort of run reports on what's being utilized. So we might push a little bit. We're not overwhelming by any means, but what can you take advantage of? And a reminder outside of running your community or your department. So we're respectful of that. Page 3, you can fly past that. This is just basically filing a claim, very easy. A lot of it flows through us. So we're a true municipal division. It's myself, the agent, 2 account managers. So anybody new with the league, basically, you just reach out to us and we help with filing a claim.
Do you have a nurse line that our department heads can actually just call in and they fill in everything for us?
Yes.
Similar to what we currently have?
Yep. And that's just a couple more pages on page 5. That's going to be our nurse case hotline. They triage and then they actually file the claim and do the first report of injury. So a lot of companies have started to utilize, not many that do not, but it is a very nice resource. And I encourage you to just basically put an 800 number poster in one of the departments and just make sure that you are at least made aware when they do make those calls. So one page back, the local GovU has lots of online training for administration. I think, as I mentioned before, the association provides a lot of legal support and training. And then it's sort of rounding out the resources that you already have access to with the association. So we sort of backfill, and a lot of our training is going to be a little bit more geared towards the insurance. Management and team training. We do public officials liability training. Myself and the CEO, Matt Becker, will come out and I would say a good fair amount of communities take advantage of that. But I just think either your city attorney may do some sort of training, and I'm sure that's fantastic, but we also will talk a little bit about claims and share some stories. So that could be good for council members that have been on the board for a very long time, or it could be for new members as well. I mean, public officials liability is a professional liability policy. It's similar to, how we protect our law enforcement. But, when you're on council, you're now have skin in the game, and it can be a little scary when you get named in a lawsuit, and so we kind of walk through what that looks like, working in the scope of your authority, walking quorums, internal communication, lots of things that can result in a claim. Page 6, Nate. This is also something that's free to you. Stafford Rosenbaum is our legal partner, and this is something that you have any sort of questions, say sort of a challenging termination, hiring, firing, discrimination related. If you're updating your HR manual, this is free to you. So instead of reaching out to your city attorney, where they charge you, I hope your city attorney's not here, but it's a fantastic resource that's utilized. And Stafford, these folks that you see in the names listed below, they are employment attorneys who specialize in it. So a lot of attorneys have specializations. So
Yeah, so just for the committee's understanding, George and Stephanie, we get a great deal from them, but one of the things that they just don't cover is HR matters, because that's a specialty, as I think Ryan was kind of pointing out here. And so we do go to a third party HR group, Vulo, I can't even remember their full name, Vulo Vetter something and something. And we've used them for HR for the exact kind of things that Ryan's talking about, especially when we head towards termination of an employee. We want to make sure we get it right and that all of our ducks are in a row and that we make it as clean as possible so that we don't have stuff crop up on us later, and that we're always doing things per best practices. And so we pay somewhere in the range, I think budget like $5,000 a year for that service. And so if this is something that to a large degree, I would imagine, could replace a lot of that. Obviously, if we end up in big things, we're probably going to have to go to additional HR legal. But the run-of-the-mill HR stuff that I deal with on, I would say, a monthly basis, where topic I'm not familiar with or is pretty sensitive or could potentially be turn into something more if I don't handle it right. And Lori works with me on that a lot. This would be a good place to say, hey, do I got this right? Am I understanding this right? This is the law. It's always nice to go to an HR attorney because they're up on it, whereas laws can change and I may have not realized. So anyway.
Yep. And this is really tied into a coverage that you have with us that's full policy limit of the 5 million is employment practices liability. As I mentioned, a lot of our resources are tied into mitigation of losses. So that is going to be a challenging termination where they maybe say it was a discrimination related event. So, and then page 7, this is also a very, very nice, it's truly an employee benefit. Ready Rebound is a liaison and advocacy program that I think 4 or 5 years now. It used to be called Tactical Athlete, and then it was rebranded to Ready Rebound, where it's now applies to basically all employees of the city. And it's about $400 per employee that there is no reimbursement. We cover the cost of that. So if you remember me talking about your experience mod, which is 1.43 that has, and losses happen. We understand that. I would say that if there was a decision to move forward with the league, I would want to really look at that and show you the light at the end of the tunnel and the resource we have to drive that down. Because if we go down below 1, it's the other way. You're saving. If we get down to 0.75, you're saving 25% of your premium. And it's sort of like a credit score. The experience mod, it basically stays with you for 3 years. So there truly needs to be a strategy there. What are controllable losses? What can we be doing with training? And what this does is it cuts down on indemnity and lost time, which is the biggest impact to your experience mod. Medical bills only, you get a 70% discount. As soon as we pay $1 of lost time and indemnity, you basically are going to be impacted the full amount of the claim. The claim will actually get paid, but lost time is a big deal. So what they do is, instead of being at the mercy of the healthcare facility and they say, okay, we can't get you in to a surgeon for 4 months. They assign you a navigator for any of those type of losses. They work directly with the healthcare facility. All the healthcare facilities, almost all of them, know who they are, and they say it's not acceptable. It's more like a professional athlete would be treated, which is see somebody, see a specialist, in for surgery. So then we're talking about driving the mod down, but also we're cutting down on the loss of manpower. It's sort of 2 things. I mean, would you rather have an important employee or a key employee out for 4 months, or would you rather it be a few weeks? And so when I say employee benefit, this actually extends to any family member in the immediate household as well. So it's not a work comp claim, but if you have a son or daughter that's injured on the soccer field or husband's injured, and I know plenty of folks that have used it, and it's a fantastic resource. So that is just as simple as an onboard. You just basically say we're with the league, and they kind of do a run through with your departments, but very good partnership with them. Page 8.
So Ryan, just a time check here. We are at about 20 minutes and we have a couple more agenda items we have to knock out before we hit council at 6:30. So
Yes.
if we could maybe take 5 more minutes.
Absolutely. Yep, I can fly through this. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
So as I mentioned, lots of training for elected officials, but this safety grant also is very important. This is 4% of the work comp premium is reimbursed to you in the form of a safety grant for safety material. So if you looked at your work comp premium, 20% returned to you in the form of a dividend, 20% flat, regardless of your losses. I think I was told right now, with your experience mod, you might not be getting anything for dividend. So 24%.
We haven't seen a dividend in probably 4 years.
So you'll get 20% flat. So that's rough numbers, 11 or 12,000 back, regardless of losses, for 3 years. And hopefully in that period of time, if there's a decision to be made, we can drive the mod down, and then you go into a formula with us. And the reason we do the 20% flat is because 3 years, the amount of time that you've been with us is factored into that formula, your losses and the size of your premium. So that won't be until 4 years, but and that's been declared every year. That was 2% last year on the safety grant. It was just up to 4%. Your premium's around 60,000. So, so our team of people within the league, I run and house this program with Bear Insurance in Madison. There's 5 agencies that represent this program. And then the league mutual only has 3 employees. Our CEO, Matt Becker, our public safety specialist, Craig Shervin, and Emily Egan, who's our training specialist. Craig Shervin's former police chief in McFarland. It was a fantastic hire. I was glad to see him jump on board after retirement. Everything that you see on page 10 through 11, the mental health toolkit, he built that. And he experienced a lot as a police chief. So that's all items that he'll chief and discuss what they can take advantage of through lots of training. They get $2,500 annually reimbursed for their Lexipol or equivalent subscription. And that's what most law enforcement's utilize for their CE. Your department's going to be well above 2,500, but there's also a discount there. So if we're looking at just bottom line numbers, there's going to be significant savings because you're probably paying for that right now. We did partner with National Testing Network for recruitment as well. I thought that was a fantastic partnership as well, helping Chief with any sort of recruitment, and there's some discounts involved there as well. That might be something that's either being paid for or it's not, it doesn't exist within the department. But Craig comes out and he walks through all that with Chief. And they might even know each other. So. Yeah, I'm thinking any extras outside of that bottom line, but it's a very good program. Like I said, I'm very fortunate to be involved in this. It feels different than any other type of insurance. We also have an annual policyholder conference every year where we have all of our attorneys. We pay for 2 nights for 2 people. That can be council members. It could be Lori. It could be Nate. It could be somebody in DPW. And that's where we share in all of our transparency as far as our financials, what rate changes, what's coming down the pipe. But that's great networking. And I don't know any other type of insurance that I've ever been involved in that has something like that, where you get to ask the questions, talk to the adjusters. And that's at the Dells every year.
I had a
How'd I
quick
do?
question, if that's okay. I might have missed this because I had to step out, but oh, sorry, I'm the Public Works Director, Sarah
hi.
Granger. So I use our current insurance a lot for safety meetings. Like I have them come like 4 or 5 times a year to go through like bloodborne pathogens to whatever. Do you guys do that stuff?
Yes, and actually, I'm so glad because that was a big part that I totally skipped over, not intentionally. Yes, so United Heartland is sort of our loss control provider. And the way that we look at it is whatever you're currently doing, we can continue and stay on that course. But I think what they'll also do is, okay, is there anything that you would like to see? So if you need to have in-person training, we have guys out there full time. We understand what the competition's doing, and we're not just trying to match that. So that's where you'll probably get additional questions as to, okay, we'll continue on this, but maybe there's some other things that can be offered.
That's awesome because it's hard to keep up with. And we bring in other, like when we do our confined space entry or, competent person training, we'll bring somebody in that's like water industry specific or something like that. But for the rest of the stuff, it's just
Yeah.
better than me doing it.
Yeah, no, you're not alone. And I would say that there's lots of online training, but we don't just basically say, okay, here you go, you figure it out. Tim Staver or Clark McAlpine are the 2 representatives from United Heartland. They actually come out and do an onboarding with department heads, look for feedback. We have to sort of operate that way because we have some very large cities and some very tiny villages. So it's okay, everybody's got sort of different needs and you guys are somewhere in between. So thank you for bringing that up.
All right. Well, we are getting a little bit closer time. Does anybody have any additional questions about any of the additional services that the League Mutual offers? No. Okay. So seeing none, one of the things that we had Ryan put together is sort of a side by side, of course, and then down here at the bottom was the number. We did get additional information back from EMCN where they would be as apples to apples as possible. And what we're looking at right now is a $39,000 increase to the positive with the league versus EMC. So at this point, Lori, I don't know if you want to offer a recommendation based on like where we've been at and kind of having worked with both companies, obviously Tricor, EMC over the years, and now the league for probably the last 18 months.
Right. I have no ill will whatsoever with our current brokers. They've been great. They've helped me through a lot of things. This is strictly a way that we need to start saving on and possibly looking at some additional things that they can offer us in regards to that. So I know we were with the league before we ended up with our current brokers. It's simply that they left working with them and they went on their own direction. So I strongly agree that with the number of municipalities that these guys work with, that I think that they would be a great resource for us and we can save some money. And I think it would be a win-win because they have a lot of the comparables that we already have yet at a discount. So that would be my recommendation.
I would as well. I mean, the number right there sort of speaks for itself. That's a large number for us. I mean, $39,000 is a significant amount of money. And on top of that, in looking at the additional services provided, there are additional cost savings in there. I mean, he mentioned the Lexipol system. That is a cost to our police department every year. And if we can get money towards that, and then it sounds like another discount on top of what's remaining or something to that effect, like we were talking another $3,000 on top of it. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity here, and I would echo what Lori said. Terry and Heather have been great at Tricor. They've been great partners since I've been in this seat. But I think when these kind of dollars are staring at us the way they are, I don't know how much option I would say that we have to not take advantage of it. And again, I think the experience in working with municipalities and specializing with that says something as well. So.
I liked what I heard, and I mean, I don't think they write all these, excuse me, cities and villages by being mediocre, mediocre company. So I like it.
So with that, I guess we would kind of like to see a motion as to if you wanted us to pursue this direction for 2026.
This, John, I would so move that we go with league.
I don't second it.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Roll call on this. Yeah.
John,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Tanya,
Aye.
and Todd Spath.
Aye. Okay, motion carries.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess payment of the bills now, Lori.
Okay, in the original bills that we had on page 2, I just wanted to point out that the other special assessment of $500 that was a overpayment, we are removing that one as we got an NSF that came back, so we can't refund that at the moment. You'll see on page 5 that we did paid the pay request number 3 for the salt shed project, the $154,850 that was approved at council last time. And then we also have invoice number 7 for the Welcome Center through Zettler Design Studio. So that's for $2,256. In the additional bills, on page 2, I wanted to point out that the payment that we're making to the DOT, that is for the airport weather system. They received a grant. They are paying $5,000 of that out of their fuel income account. And the remaining of that is coming out of their other expense, out of their budget. The way they do it with the DOT is this will be the only, from what Mike has told me, this will be the only bill that we received, and then everything else is direct payment for the grant directly to whoever is doing the weather system. On page 3, we are reimbursing the municipal utility, $976.95. That is, Matthew gave us one bill. A lot of that was for the utilities, but they incorporated the city hall paving in there too. So Cheryl paid the majority of that, or the whole bill, and so we're just reimbursing her for the portion that was actually the city's. And then you're going to see on page 5, there's several things coming out of the TID 7 for the landfill and the Walmart intersection and Railroad Avenue and the Hanson property. So there's several things that are hitting TID 7 for some of those projects. So those are the main things I wanted to point out, unless anybody's got questions on anything else.
I don't have any questions. Anybody else? No? Okay, we need a motion to pay the bills.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Second, this is Tanya.
Okay, roll call.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Tanya,
Aye.
Todd Spade,
Aye.
and John.
Aye.
Okay, bills are paid. Administrative updates.
I can start out. We currently wrapped up our open enrollment meetings we had with our employees on the health insurance and the changes that are coming for 2026. Open enrollment runs till December 5th, so they have a couple weeks here for them to make any changes. Been working on these insurance comparables, getting that stuff set up, doing bank recs, working on the taxi grant for 2026. We started on our ordinance project that we're going to start reviewing all the ordinances and bringing them forward. Todd is on that committee along with Cindy. And so we got started on the very first title. And then I've been contacting some of my election workers, trying to get together to see who wants to be an election worker for 2026 through 2027, because I need to bring that forward in December for your guys' review and approval. So that's kind of been what I've been up to.
Thanks, Lori. I know we're tight on time and we'll need a little transition, but for me, it's been sort of the usual as you'd expect. I mean, all these things are probably well on your radar, but again, we got a lot of economic development activity happening right now with the Hanson Farm, so that continues to be an ongoing process of getting developers lined up and meeting with Sarah and Matt and making sure that we're all in alignment on that, as well as getting things to closing for the property that we sold to Chad Olson out on Railroad Avenue, just kind of following up on all those processes. The comprehensive plan is still underway. We have a committee of the whole meeting coming up in December to really dig our fingers into that, and I'm going to make you all sit down and really look at it, provide feedback, really start looking at the goals. But I am happy to say that at this point, the comprehensive outdoor rec plan and the historic preservation plan, which was really where I was spending a ton of my time, are now done and approved. You guys remember approving those, of course. And then tonight we have budget, and so it's just kind of going through the final stages of budget preparation, public hearings, and just things like that. And a lot of things have just been really like odd one-off things that have like cropped up and asked me to deal with it. Some HR items that have come up recently. Nothing to really that I want to say here or talk about here that's really noteworthy, but just kind of interesting situations that we're trying to deal with. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's kind of what's been on my plate.
Nate, regarding the committee of the whole, do you want us to submit comments and things beforehand or just wait until that day?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm very open to however you guys would like. Part of it is we've tried that method of saying, hey, check out these drafts and submit your comments. And sometimes that's okay. It requires some self-study. You can't really bounce things off of people. Maybe somebody in the room brings something up. Is like, you know what? I never thought about it that way, or I didn't catch that. Let's talk about that. That's what the committee of the whole is there for, is to kind of provide a different medium for you guys to engage with the materials, because sitting there in a tree stand, as I know what Todd does, and reading the comprehensive plan is only so engaging, right? And then he gets distracted because maybe a 3-pointer comes in front of him and he's like, that's the biggest deer I've ever shot, and he gets distracted. So it's just whatever way you prefer, but before you came on, we've tried
It's
that.
not necessarily
It's not
helpful
necessary.
for us to do it
Yes.
ahead of time. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
but certainly we want you to be prepared to discuss it. And so you should have cracked open the book before the meeting.
That's what my 8-hour car trip tomorrow is going to be all about.
Right. Very good. So I think
Okay.
we're good for second period now, Todd.
All right, second period for public comment.
We have a couple folks online. If anybody would like to make a public comment, they can do so at this time.
Nobody? Okay,
I
then
think you're
we'll
good.
make a motion for adjournment.
Todd will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.